Okay. Okay, our halls are decked and we're very grateful. Welcome to our Namakwa UU congregation and happy holidays. I've been so looking forward to this day. Two of my loves are music and children, and today we get to hear music from children, so it doesn't get any better than that. And the stories that our parents and guardians are going to share with us all have the common thread of lessons we can learn from the example of our kids. The stories shine a light on kindness, generosity, gratitude, and compassion. So right out of the gate, I want to thank Cherry and Katrina for gathering and leading the first performance of our wonderful children's choir. Yes. It's been so much fun. And I want to thank our kids and everyone who stepped up to help with this program. We want to extend a warm welcome to any visitors that we have here with us today. This is truly a come as you are congregation, and we're blessed to have you here with us. You can sign up at the back if you want to know what's going on. Here at Namakwa UU, we foster a beloved community that inspires spiritual growth through a free and loving search for truth and meaning. We celebrate diversity, we strive for peace and justice, and we act mindfully for the good of the planet. I have a very important announcement. This Tuesday, 7 o'clock at the City Hall, we have been asked, our congregation's been asked to come as advocates for the creation of the Homeless Resource Center for the First Christian Church. As you know, there's been significant opposition from neighbors in using the First Christian Church as a homeless shelter. And so this is a tremendous opportunity, and they've asked us specifically, our congregation, to please show up and add our voices to their voices so that we can bless the lives of so many people experiencing homelessness. So Tuesday morning, City Council, 6 o'clock. Evening, 6 p.m. Don't show up at 6 a.m., p.m. Thanks, Dina. So this week is our usual busy week. We've got the Ukes on Wednesday, mindfulness group Thursday, choir practice Thursday. No, it's Wednesday. Choir practice is Wednesday? Okay. Choir practice Wednesday, UU Writers Friday, and it should all be in the website, so go there. All right. Next Sunday, we're going to have Welcoming the Light, a winter solstice celebration. Reverend Dina and Kathy Hartman will guide us through this annual turning point of the year with a ritual to release negativity and welcome the return of the light. So that will be wonderful. Coffee hour after the service today in the annex, and thanks again for everybody who's helped with this service. Okay. I believe that there's nothing like Christmas to remind us what it felt like to be a kid. When I was a little girl, we had more love than money in my home of 8 people on one middle school teacher's salary, as you can imagine. So what I looked forward to most about Christmas was the presents, full disclosure. I'm not going to lie. That's why I have a distinct memory of when I first watched the animated Grinch as a little girl. It made a big impression. There he is. So that the Who's down in Whoville were able to feel such joy even when the Grinch stole all their presents was a fascinating idea to me. And as you know, the Grinch was just as incredulous as myself. Dr. Seuss writes, and the Grinch with his Grinch feet, ice cold in the snow, stood puzzling and puzzling. How could it be so? It came without ribbons. It came without tags. It came without packages, boxes, or bags. And he puzzled and puzzled till his puzzler was sore. Then the Grinch thought of something he hadn't before. What if Christmas, he thought, doesn't come from a store? What if Christmas perhaps means a little bit more? Wow, this blew my mind. Could there really be something more important than getting presents? It took me a few more years, quite a few more years, to understand that the greatest present that we can give to anyone is the gift of ourselves. especially the gift of our best selves, as we've talked about, that gift of our presence. So today we get to enjoy the presence and the singing of our younger generation and to celebrate the gift that our congregation has in our children. As you know, the Who's down in Whoville sang Welcome Christmas, that Donahoe Dories. The UUs have a version of the same called Come Christmas, and it's one of my favorite readings. It's by Maureen Killeran. So come Christmas, most needed of seasons. Come with a reminder that love does not depend on perfection, but on the willingness to risk connection. Come into the unready manger of our hearts that we may feel the warmth of new life and give flesh to the promise of hope that cries to bring healing to our world. Come Christmas, come love, come hope, be born in our unready hearts on this holy morning. And now two of our youth, Sasha and Josie, are going to share with us what our Christmas candles represent. We light our Christmas candles from our chalice.
Ooh. I don't think we were supposed to.
We light the first candle to celebrate the gift of light at this darkest time of year.
We light the second candle to celebrate the gift of birth and life. Every night a child is born is a holy night.
We light the third candle to celebrate the gift of belonging to a family.
We light the fourth candle to celebrate the gift of memories and traditions at Christmas time.
We light the last candle to celebrate the gift of love.
Come Christmas, come bring your magic of peace and goodwill to all.
Come into our hearts, into our lives, and into our families. Please join us in saying our affirmation.
Love is the spirit of this congregation, and service its call. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
I think it's on. It's my pleasure to introduce to you the Colorado. Yeah, woo, they're big time. They're big time now. The Children's Christmas Choir of Namaqua. They've been practicing. Thank you. And while they're getting set up, I'd like to tell you who's in the choir. Our youngest is little Evie Hopehill. We also have Ocean Alexander, Everett and Randall Johnson, Boston Bennett, George and Josie Lute, and Sasha Tashenko. Now, Mila and Cora Pease have been practicing with us, but they are ill today. They were going to be the donkeys in our first song. And they might have come down with some donkey fever. I don't know. Probably. Anyway, we wish them a speedy recovery. So our first song, The Friendly Beasts, is a nativity story about all the animals that help Jesus and his family in the stable. What else was I going to say? Oh, yes. You need to be on the lookout for another visitor from the future who might surprise you. So I think we're ready to go.
Jesus, our brother, kind and good, was humbly born in a stable room, and the friendly beasts around him stood. Jesus, our brother, kind and good. I said the donkey, shaggy and brown. I carried them far, uphill and down. I carried her safely to Bethlehem town. I said the donkey, shaggy and brown. I said the train with the tender green. I'm the very best train you've ever seen. I toot my horn along the track. I carry the danger on my back. I said the cowboy and red. I gave him my name to call I gave him my eggs to pillow his head. I said the I said the sheep with the curly horn. I gave him my wool to blankets warm. He wore my coat on Christmas morn. I said the sheep with the curly horn. I said the dove from the rafters high. And to sleep so I would not cry. We cooed him to sleep, my mate and I said the dove from the rafters high. Thus every beside Songbird's bell, with the same dog was glad to tell of the gift she gave Emmanuel, the gift she gave Emmanuel. Back to parents.
Isn't it so great to have enough kids up here for a choir? To hear their voices thank you all for their hard work. So today I'm bringing you Trouble at the End by Dina Donahoe. Wally was 9 that year and in the 2nd grade, though he should have been in the 4th. Most people in town knew he had difficulty keeping up. He was big and clumsy, slow in movement and in mind. Still, Wally was well liked by the other children in his class, all of whom were smaller than he, though the boys had trouble hiding their irritation if the uncoordinated Wally asked to play ball with them. Most often, they'd find a way to keep him off the field, but Wally would hang around anyway, not sulking, just hoping. He was always a helpful boy, a willing and smiling one, and the natural protector, paradoxically, of the underdog. Sometimes, if the older boys chased the younger ones away, it would always be Wally who'd say, "But can't they stay? They're no bother." Wally fancied the idea of being a shepherd with a flute in the Christmas pageant that year, but the play's director, Miss Lombard, assigned him to a more important role. After all, she reasoned, the innkeeper did not have too many lines, and Wally's size would make his refusal of lodging to Joseph more forceful. And so it happened that the usual large partisan audience gathered for the town's Yuletide extravaganza. No one on stage or off was more caught up in the magic of the night than Wallace Perling. They said later that he stood in the wings and watched the performance with such fascination that from time to time, Miss Lombard had to make sure he didn't wander on stage before his cue. Then the time came when Joseph appeared, slowly, tenderly guiding Mary to the door of the inn. Joseph knocked hard on the wooden door, set into the painted backdrop. Wally the innkeeper was there, waiting. "What do you want?" Wally said, swinging the door open with a brusque gesture. "We seek lodging." "Seek it elsewhere." Wally looked straight ahead but spoke vigorously. "The inn is filled." "Sir, we have asked everywhere in vain. We have traveled far and are very weary." "There is no room at this inn for you." Wally looked properly stern. "Please, good innkeeper, this is my wife, Mary. She is heavy with child and needs a place to rest. Surely you must have some small corner for her. She is so tired." Now, for the first time, the innkeeper relaxed his stiff stance and looked down at Mary. With that, there was a long pause. Long enough to make the audience a bit tense with embarrassment. "No, be gone," the prompter whispered from the wings. "No," Wally repeated automatically, "be gone." Joseph sadly placed his arm around Mary, and Mary laid her head upon his shoulder, and the two of them started to move away. The innkeeper did not return inside his inn, however. Wally stood there in the doorway, watching the forlorn couple. His mouth was open, his brow creased with concern, his eyes filling unmistakably with tears. Don't go, Joseph," Wally called out. "Bring Mary back." And Wallace Perling's face grew into a bright smile. "You can have my room." Some people in town thought that the pageant had surely been ruined. Yet there were others, many others, who considered it the most Christmas of all Christmas pageants they had ever seen.
Thank you, Clay. You don't have to be a Christian to love that story. Now for joys and sorrows, let me just set the stage. 22 years ago tomorrow, I had my last baby, 9 days before Christmas. And once in the car, when she started wailing as newborns do, my two youngest, sitting on either side of her car seat, started to sing Silent Night. To all of our amazement, the baby stopped crying to listen. It was like magic. She is my daughter who loves music, but we didn't know that about her at the time. So my young kids were so pleased with their new power that they tried this trick every time the baby started to cry in her car seat, even months and months after Christmas. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't, but those sweet little voices singing Silent Night to my baby are just absolute gems in my memory box. So today for joys and sorrows, we're going to give ourselves a chance to wail to our neighbor about our sorrows, or if you choose, you can share a joy. And then we will finish up by singing the most beautiful of Christmas songs, Silent Night. And we'll just sing the first verse and hum the rest. And we'll see if the spirit of that song can't bring peace to your own soul. So the time is now yours to greet your neighbor and try to just include everybody. I know it's kind of hard with a few, but just go ahead and share a joy or a sorrow.
Howdy. Cowboy Lynn here. I was in Australia, they called it a walkabout. I was having coffee the other day, and these people sitting next to me, they were talking about Namakwa you, and it sounded kind of strange. But when they started talking about this brand new choir, I paid attention, and here I am, and you kids sounded great. Well, as long as I'm here, I thought I might blow off a little hot air and tell you a nice Christmas story. This is about Texas. It was several years ago. It was the day after Christmas in the morning. It was bitter cold. I was driving my pickup down this gravel road, went around the corner, and there was this young lad barefoot walking down the road with raggedy coveralls on. And he had a sweater wrapped around his head to keep his ears warm. Well, I picked him up, and, he looks up at me and he goes, I'm going down the road a couple of miles to see my cousin. I'm going to show him the orange I got from old Santa Claus. Well, I hadn't mentioned Christmas to him because in this part of Texas, they didn't have Christmas much. Anyway, he says to me, did you have a nice Christmas? Did Santa Claus come visit you? And I said, we sure did at our house. And how about you? Well, he kind of waited a minute and then he said, we had the most wonderfulest Christmas in the whole United States. In fact, it was the first Christmas we ever had. He said, we knew about Christmas, but it was just another day. And my papa, he likes to hoorah a lot, you know, and he said, old Santa, he is afraid to come down to where we live because we were so poor, somebody had butchered one of those reindeer for something to eat. And he said, you know, it started like this the other day. This woman from town, she comes out and she says, if Papa would take his wagon into town, Santa Claus would be there and he'd give us Christmas time for everybody. Well, the next day, sure enough, Papa hooks up the mules to the wagon, and just before he leaves, he says, now, kids, don't get too excited. That story just sounds too good to be true. But being kids, we was awful excited, so we'd run out there in the yard where we could look down the lane and see him coming back. We did that all morning, but we was getting kind of tired, so we went in for lunch. And then we hear these harnesses jangling away, and we run outside, and there was Papa. He was standing up in that old wagon holding up 2 chickens going, Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas. Boy, we ran out there and we looked in that wagon. Boy, you would have been amazed to see. There was stripedy candy, apples, oranges, flour, sugar, from real coffee, and nuts. There was peanuts. Oh, and there was, well, Mama, she told us to name all the other nuts. She'd seen that kind of stuff before. She was pretty smart, you know. And then all of a sudden, Papa yells out, Merry Christmas, Samuel Jackson. And we turn around and look, and there he was. And Papa, you know, Samuel Jackson, he lives down the end of the lane just across the creek from our place. So Papa says, Samuel, did you go into town and get some Christmas too? And Samuel, he says, well, no, I heard about it, but I didn't go in. I just thought it was for you white families and not us colored folks. Boy, it got quiet then. We didn't know what to do. Then all of a sudden, Papa says, Samuel Jackson, boy, I'm glad you came by. Well, Santa Claus, he'd be pretty mad at me if I didn't take care of this. When I was in town, he said he hadn't seen you around. So he said, I'm putting extra in this wagon for Samuel Jackson and his family. So Papa says, you go home and you tell your wife and kids, you come down here tomorrow and we're going to have Christmas time all day long. Yes, we are. Samuel goes, you reckon? And Mama says, you bet. And you tell your wife to bring extra pots and pans because we got a lot of cooking to do. Well, the next morning, you know, it was Christmas. It was rosy. It was cold, but we didn't care. We got up about daylight time. We were so excited. We'd go in that kitchen and look at all that food. Oh, man, that was exciting. And then right after breakfast, here comes Samuel Jackson and his wife and their 5 kids. And, well, little Willie Jackson, he's a good friend of mine, you know. And so Mrs. Jackson and Mama, they got in the kitchen. They started cooking up all this stuff. And Papa and Samuel Jackson, they took some sawhorses, you know, and put boards across them and covered it up with a sheet. And they made a table big enough for everybody. And us kids, we just was playing Christmas time, you know. We was running around, rolling in the dirt and laughing. And then we'd sneak in the house and go to that kitchen door, bend our head in there and take a big old sniff. Oh man, that was good. We just kept playing Christmas time. We'd like to wore ourselves out. And then Mama, she comes out and says, y'all come in now, it's time to eat. Well, we went in there and you couldn't believe that table. There was strappity candy and an apple and an orange at everybody's place. And that whole table was just full of food. Well, Samuel Jackson, he's sitting at this end of the table and Papa's over here at the other end. And Papa says, I'm not much of a church going man myself, but I know you're the deacon of your church, so how about if you would say the blessing? So old Samuel Jackson, he stands up and he didn't bow his head like most people when they're saying grace. No, sirree. He's got these big old hands. He just grabs the edge of the table and he looks up and smiles. And he says, Lord, I hope you and your angels are having as good a time up in heaven as we are down here. So I just want to say, Merry Christmas. So it's like I said, mister, we had the most wonderfulest Christmas in the whole United States of America. So thank you for listening.
All right, my cuties. I think they look great. I think they look wonderful. All right, remember to be really loud, okay, guys? We ready? Over the river and through the woods to grandma's house we go. The horse was away to carry the sleigh through the wide and drifting snow. Over the river and through the woods to how the wind is low. In sleeves, mistletoes, and pipes and notes, as over the ground we go. Over the river and through the woods to castle and play. The river singing, it is Christmas Day. Over the river and through the woods, that's my apple way. When all the clouds are white, the house on Christmas Day. And we are singing really loud. Jingle bells, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to walk in one-horse open sleigh. Hey! Jingle bells, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in one-horse open
Well, that's going to be hard to top. But the choir now wants you to join them in a 3-part song called Oh Be Joyful. Now, this part of the congregation's going to sing part 1. You guys over there are going to sing part 2, and the kids are going to sing part 3. So we're going to have Slip play them for us. Claire's going to lead you. Oh, did I say part 1 over here? Yeah. Yeah, so you're part 1. We got it. Okay, so Claire is going to lead part 2 here. Dana's going to lead part 1, and then the kids will sing part 3. So we'll have Slip play part 1 first, please.
Are you going to sing along, Dina? I'll sing along. All right. Ready? Oh, be joyful, oh, be jubilant, put your sorrows far away. Come, rejoice and sing together this happy day. Yes. Great, that's our part. Part 2, more simpler. It's not too bad. Yeah. Here we go.
Kids sing their part so you know what it sounds like. So you want to play that once through? Wonderful. Okay, so are you ready to go? It's going to sound great. Okay, so there's... You do yours the same time. Yeah, no, you start. You start. So part 1, you're going to sing yours 4 times. Part 2, you're going to sing it 3 times. So...
Join in on the second time, is that right? They're going to sing once and then the second time through part joins? We'll hear you. It's
I don't know what you're saying. They're just going to come in.
Are they layering in or are they starting all together? Exactly. There you go.
Okay, so if we are ready, Slip's going to play a little intro, and then part 1 can come in. Okay, now one more final thing. The Social Justice Committee has a present for the kids. So Sue Matthews is gonna come up, and Katrina and I do too, so I'm gonna pass those out.
Just wanted to do an impromptu little thank you. They didn't know I was doing this. We wanted to give a big thank you to Cherry for all the work that she did to make this happen. I got to do all the flashy fun stuff, and she got to do a lot of fun stuff, but a lot of hard work too. So everybody, especially our kiddos, can we say thank you, Miss Cherry? Miss Cherry. What an amazing memory you've made with us, Jerry. Thank you. Shall we? Happy birthday.
Let's give it up one more time for Miss Katrina, Miss Cherry, and our children's choir. Thank you all for your hard work and your beautiful voices. And now for a moment of meditation. The sage Hermes offers us these words as a way to remember the timeless truth of this human life. Dina, can you hear me okay? Perceive that you are not yet born, that you are in the womb, that you are young, that you are old, that you have died, that you are in the world beyond the grave. Grasp in your mind all this at once, and you can begin to see the play of the divine. How miraculous is our human life in all of its forms. If you step back to look at that, all the different evolutions of who we are, it's just absolutely astounding. Someone anonymous said this, "I think the life cycle is all backwards. You should die first and get that out of the way. Then you live 20 years in an old folks' home doing not much. You're kicked out when you get too young. You get a gold watch, you go to work, you work 40 or so years until you're young enough to go to college. You party there until you're ready for high school. You become a little kid, you play, you have no responsibilities. You become a very small person. You go back into the womb. You spend your last 9 months on earth floating in bliss until you finish off as a gleam in someone's eye." I invite you now to just close your eyes, take a nice deep breath or two, and just picture in your mind's eye the stages of life that have been you so far. The impermanence of life doesn't let us stop anywhere for too long on this journey. All the ages that we have ever been make up who we are now. So just hold all these evolutions of yourself, all it means to be human, the blessing and the struggle of it. Just hold all that with love and compassion as we listen to Slip play us a lullaby.
Christmas Oranges by Linda Beathers. There was once a little girl. Nobody knew her real name because she had been left on the steps of an orphanage when she was a baby. Mrs. Hartley, the woman who ran the orphanage, decided to call her Rose because of her rosy cheeks. Rose knew of no other life, so she was happy in the orphanage. When Rose was 8 years old, a terrible flu epidemic swept through the country, and after taking care of many sick children, Mrs. Hartley died of this disease. The children who remained had to be sent to other institutions throughout the country by train. Rose's new home was nothing like the one she was used to. Instead of warm, soft blankets on the bed, there were scratchy gray ones. Instead of friends surrounding her, there were strangers. Instead of kind, loving Mrs. Hartley, there was strict, stern Mr. Crampton. "Silence," Mr. Crampton ordered, before marching forward to give Rose a disapproving inspection. Turning to one of the girls, he says, "Emily, take her to the sleeping rooms and show her the chores she will be expected to do. Make sure she understands the rules of Iron Gate Orphanage." Luckily, Emily and Rose became friends. Over the next few weeks, Rose learned the rules and ways of this new orphanage. She learned that every rule broken must be met with a punishment. Mr. Crampton's 3 favorite punishments were sentencing a child to miss a meal, do extra chores, or spend the evening by themselves. Soon everywhere the orphaned children walked, they saw signs that Christmas was coming. Emily told Rose that Mr. Crampton would like to forget Christmas altogether, but the town people wouldn't let him. So to keep up appearances, he allowed a tree to be put up on Christmas Eve after the children had gone to bed. And one generous old man in town always donated a box of oranges to the orphanage for the children's breakfast. He strung the oranges and put them on the tree, and Emily told Rose how pretty they looked and how good they smelled. Rose had never seen or smelled an orange before. Emily told her that they were sweeter than sugar in a clean, fresh way. Rose was so excited to try an orange, she didn't know how she could wait 3 more days to Christmas. On Christmas Eve, Rose laid in her bed and tried to sleep. She kept thinking about the oranges that would be on the tree, the oranges she would finally get to taste the next morning. As the night crept on, finally she couldn't stand it any longer, so she tiptoed to the door and softly padded down the hallway. Kneeling down, she gazed in wonder at the beautiful tree. She stayed only a minute, then quietly crept back to bed and fell to sleep at last. What she didn't see was Mr. Crampton awake and standing in the doorway to his room. The sun had barely begun to shine the next morning when the children were dressed and waiting in 2 straight lines in the aisles between their beds. "Well," Mr. Crampton said dourly, "that's one good thing about Christmas. All of you can remember to behave. Before we start downstairs, we need to take care of one person that did not remember to behave last night. Rose, for sneaking out of bed and wandering the hall, you will receive all 3 punishments." The children gasped. No one had ever received all 3 punishments before. "You will spend the day up here by yourself. You will scrub the floors. You will not get a Christmas orange." The joy had been taken out of the morning for all the children. They knew how much Rose had been looking forward to tasting her first orange. At breakfast, while Emily sat looking at her orange and wishing Rose could have one, a wonderful idea came to her. She whispered to the next child to her, and he passed it on down the table until everybody knew the plan. Each evening, the children were immediately sent to bed after cleaning up supper, and tonight was no exception. As the children entered the dark sleeping room, they saw Rose was huddled in her bed, crying. "Oh, Emily," she sobbed, "this has to be the worst day of my life. I didn't know it was wrong to go look at the tree, and now I've missed the beautiful oranges." Emily hugged Rose. "Don't cry anymore. We have a surprise for you." From her pocket came a small white bundle. Rose looked at the children gathered around her bed. In the faint moonlight, she could see the excitement on their faces. Rose peeled back the corners of the handkerchief, and there, in the palm of her hand, was an orange. Not an ordinary orange, but one made up of a segment from each child. "Smell it," someone whispered excitedly. "Taste it," someone else said. The children were watching so closely that when Rose opened her mouth, their lips parted too. Rose's eyes widened in surprise, and her mouth slightly puckered at the first tangy, sweet taste. Several other orange-filled handkerchiefs were pulled from pinafore pockets and passed around so every child got a segment. All the kids decided that this year's oranges were the best by far. In the years to come, many of those children at the orphanage had more money and possessions than they had ever dreamed possible, but they never forgot the feelings that were in their hearts that day as they each shared a small slice of their Christmas orange. So rather than have us pass around little orange slices, might be less sanitary these days, we are going to have these oranges in, is it Parker Hall? Parker Hall afterwards. And so just take a moment to treasure that experience. Imagine if it was your first time ever tasting an orange, if it was something that you'd never seen or smelled before. And remember little Rose and her kindness and thinking to share with her friends. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Katrina. So for our half plate this month, as you know, that we are giving to the TP Raisers. Their mission explains, we establish diverse coalitions of partners to alleviate poverty in Native communities, empower youth, create opportunities for reconciliation, and honor Indigenous wisdom. So please give generously. Rise for the closing song. Joy to the world.
What a beautiful service. And in honor of beauty, I will be sharing for our chalice extinguishing a benediction number 682 in your gray hymnal if you want to follow along. From Navajo here in Northern America. Beauty is before me and beauty behind me. Above us and below us hovers the beautiful. I am surrounded by it. I am immersed in it. In my youth, I am aware of it. And in old age, I shall walk quietly the beautiful trail. In beauty it is begun, in beauty it is ended.
Join us for coffee and conversation in Parker Hall. Thank you.